by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg. Tom.
Michael Barr, thanks so much. Up 766 Dow points, 24,441. SPX up 79 points, 2,941. Really back on the 3,000 watch for SPX. Yep. We're not there yet. On a percentage basis, Paul, up 3% on the Dow, up 2.7% on S&P 500. It really correlates, Paul, across all the rest of the data, doesn't it?
It really does, and it's sharp contrast to what we've seen over the last 5 or 6 sessions in the markets here, where it looked like the market was taking a little bit of a break here, and some of that economic data really was kind of weighing on the market here. But we get a little bit of color as it relates to potential vaccines moving along the trend, plus some comments from Chairman Powell that the Fed, in fact, does have more tools in its toolbox, and that's kind of where we are this morning.
The dollar pulls back here from the huge enthusiasm of earlier this morning that beat DXY benchmark 99.94. I should point out Brazilian real is a stronger Brazilian real this morning, fractionally. With the Dow up over 700 points, this is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Pursuits look at luxury. Although it may be tough to make summer plans, the Hamptons rental market is booming, fueled by New Yorkers eager to leave the city during the shutdown. As a result, the Shosugi Banhouse, a 13-room spa and resort, is reinventing itself as a $400,000 per month summer rental. Each nearly new suite has a garden patio, a gas fireplace, and a soaking tub. While the 3-acre property does have a tennis court and multiple spa pools, its non-traditional hotel setup allows for some kind of social distancing, even from one's own family. With governments looking to recoup the economic costs of a virus that's heightening global concerns over inequality, COVID-19 has created unexpectedly complex tax situations among the super rich, stranded around the world and across U.S. state lines. Stuck in London or New York too many days instead of Spain or Florida, and you can get counted as a resident. After all, has to pay for all of this. I'm Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing for a highly personalized experience? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's fast-paced environment, where the only constants are change and volatility, you need a prime broker who's both steady and agile, focused on supporting your needs so that you can focus on growing your business and producing results. Exceptional client service and advocating for our clients is at the core of what we do. Our award-winning high-touch team is just one of the benefits of working with BNY Mellon. We help alternative investment managers create great experiences for their clients. Whether it's customized financing, securities lending solutions, platform access, or outsourced trading, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and dedicated to meeting your evolving demands.
To learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers, visit Pershing.com. Pershing LLC. Member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
Global news.
A half-price dream holiday. Wouldn't want to miss that. A takeaway for free. Wouldn't want to miss that. And 30 gigs data for just £10 a month on Smarty Mobile. You definitely don't want to miss that. Our Smarty SIM comes packed with 30 gigs of data and unlimited calls and texts for just £10 a month on a 1-month plan. That's why Smarty won Best Value SIM-only network in the U-Switch Mobile Awards 2020. Don't miss out. Search Smarty Mobile. Smarty. Simple, honest mobile. Smarty.co.uk.
At George, we know there's nothing better than catching up with your mates. That's why we've invited Fern McCann over for a cuppa and a chat with some of her besties. Because staying in is the new going out, right? Join us and Fern over on our Instagram TV at Georgia Asda to get all the latest gossip, giggles and fashion tips. Sunday at 6 p.m.
Picture in your mind a stylish Audi with striking LED headlights, sporty alloy wheels, and some of our most advanced features, including a 10-inch digital cockpit and smart assistant systems like lane departure warning. Picture what that Audi looks like. Now think smaller. The Audi A1. It's not a small car, it's a small Audi. Visit audi.co.uk. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. Stocks are jumping after an experimental vaccine showed promising early signs of helping to fend off the new coronavirus. Crude oil is advancing. Yields on treasuries are rising. All three main U.S. equity indexes opened higher after Moderna said its vaccine tests yielded signs it can create an immune system response in the body. Moderna shares are up more than 17% right now. The S&P 500 is up 2.8%, up 79 points at 2943. Dow Jones Industrial average up 3 1/3% or 789 points at 24,477, and the Nasdaq's up 2.1% or 185 points at 91.98. 10-year Treasury down 12/32, yield 0.68%. The yield on the 2-year 0.16%. NYMEX crude oil is up 11.7%, up $3.44 at 32.87 a barrel. COMEX gold is down 0.9% or $16 at 17.40 an ounce. The euro 1.0863 against the dollar. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Karen, thank you so much. Long ago and far away is where most of us get our acclaim. There used to be a bond reporter at the Wall Street Journal who discovered acclaim by doing show don't tell, fact-based bond analysis. He occasionally does that today. He's the former editor-in-chief of Bloomberg News, Matthew Winkler. Full disclosure, folks, he's the one that said, Tom, do you want to, would you want to think about working here? And I said, I'll think about it. Matt Winkler joins us today with an absolute tour de force on blue states, red states, and their municipal bonds. Matt, congratulations. Your chart, Advantage Blue, should be copied down by every politician in America. If Mr. Biden carried Advantage Blue in his wallet, or Mr. Trump carried Advantage Blue in his wallet, what would they read?
You're very kind. Look, this is a really basic story based on essentially there's a claim, and then you go to every conceivable piece of data that we look at regularly and try to see if that claim can be verified. And that really is all we did, my colleague Shinpei and I. We looked at every part of the economy in the blue states, which actually have a disadvantage because if you go by the 2016 election, there were 30 red states, and so that 20 blue states could really outperform 30 states. And, you know, you're including Texas and Florida among the red states as well. So it's a pretty straightforward story, which is everywhere you look, whether it's the municipal bond market, where blue states had much more robust performance with investors, whether it's personal income, whether it's job growth, whether it's the labor participation rate. You know, all of these things show that the blue states had an advantage. And it's kind of stunning, really, when you think about it, because people say a lot of things, and unfortunately, they get believed. And it's important, as you say, show don't tell.
So, Matt, I mean, even I think probably Governor Cuomo from New York probably put it best, or certainly put it most publicly, when he was responding to Senator Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, saying that New York State actually puts in a lot more into the federal till than it takes out, whereas certain states like Kentucky take out more than they put in. What's kind of the math behind that, those types of statements?
Okay, well, that's really a political outcome. Once the Republican Party essentially got control of power, and that goes back now quite a ways, what the blue states, traditional Democratic states, contributed in their tax revenue turned out to be far more than what they got back. It's a very simple equation. That's what he's referring to. That's been known for some time. That's really not news. What is news is that even with that disadvantage, the blue states outperformed the red states economically. So, you know, if you're Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, it's obviously hypocritical to assail a blue state like New York, because not only is that state creating more wealth and prosperity for the country, not just for New York, but for the country, but it's also giving Kentucky that much more wealth and prosperity. And the same is true, of course, with California. The same is true with Illinois. everywhere you look, these states are contributing more to the well-being of Americans than the red states.
Most stunning, the time we've got left with you, the most stunning ratio that you have. And folks, what's great about this is, there's absolute analysis, but there's also fabulous ratio, fractional percentage analysis as well. Is the single line labor participation rate change. What a starkness of the blue states, the Democrat, the big states, up 34 basis points versus red states negative. They actually went the other way. Matt, that's almost a societal analysis than a mathematical analysis.
Well, look, I didn't get into this, but other people have. The Democrats generally believe we're all in this together, and if we all pull the same oar, everybody's going to benefit. Rising tide lifts all boats. The Republicans generally say no bailouts, no handouts. Everybody fend for him or herself or their self. You're on your own, no matter where you come from. And the Democrats say, well, that's ridiculous because some of us have more wealth than others. Some of us are blessed with circumstances that others are not. And that's a reality. And the Democrats say we ought to do something about it. The Republicans say not so fast.
Well, we got to leave it there. This is a tour de force. Investors don't share the president's scorn for blue states. Matthew Winkler, the editor-in-chief emeritus at Bloomberg. I'll put this out on social, folks, and it's remarkably fair in its show don't tell about the facts around our 50 states. Matt Winkler, thank you so much. Paul, I've been so distracted by Matt's essay, I haven't looked at the market. Are we up a gajillion points yet?
We're still up pretty healthily, Tom. We got the S&P up about 69 points. The Dow Jones Industrial's up, let's call it 705 points here. That's just about 3% on the Dow, and NASDAQ up about 1.6%, 147 points. So looking at the Dow here, Tom, again, up almost 3%. That's 24,385 on the Dow. So a pretty solid opening and pretty solid start to this week.
Let me go through the currency complex because we've had a shift from early this morning. Early this morning, dollar stronger, pulls back on a blended basis on the general DXY index. Bloomberg dollar index more EM weighted, down 0.5% there, 1251. That's a series we don't follow all that often. What we do look at are the majors. The euro 108.57, stronger euro yen 116.68, pulls back all in all over the last 3 days. I do want to mention euro Swissy. Swissy was stronger, really threatening to new Swiss strength. We do not see that right now. We've had a reversal there with this great risk on feel. Again, the Dow up 708 points. Lots more to talk about here to set up the week. Most interesting week here in a better market, to say the least. Stay with us. This is Bloomberg Radio.
At George, we know there's nothing better than catching up with your mates. That's why we've invited Fern McCann over for a cuppa and a chat with some of her besties. Because staying in is the new going out, right? Join us and Fern over on our Instagram TV at Georgia Asda to get all the latest gossip, giggles and fashion tips. Sunday at 6 p.m.
Imagine winning 10 grand. Yes! With Set for Life, you could win 10 grand every month for 30 years. Get in! Amazing! Woo! Yes! Sweet! Unbelievable! Set for Life from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Play Monday online or on the app. Prize may be capped. Rules, procedures and game-specific rules apply. Players must be 16 or over.
This is an important update from the government about coronavirus. We all need to stay alert so we can control the virus and reduce the risk of infection. To stay alert, you must remain at home as much as possible. Work from home if you can. Limit your contact with other people. If you have to go out, keep your distance from others, 2 meters apart where possible. Continue to wash your hands regularly. Do not leave home if you or anyone in your household has symptoms. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Get your MLB fix with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Fill your seventh inning stretch with the Ringer MLB Show.
I just can't get over it. It's like, oh, Jeter Downs. Didn't realize he was a top. Like, my dad is drinking the Kool-Aid on this. He's like, of course. Mookie was going to leave. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know that.
Slide into second with the Starting Nine podcast.
Nolan Arenado slides right into the top spot for favorite baseball player. Active in the league right now. It is a pleasure to be sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is we've been waiting a long time for this. We actually, in terms of like active
round the bases with the Statcast podcast.
Ways of going about it. I picked third, so in some ways it made it easier for me. Mike, just to go over the first couple of picks. Mike took Barry Bonds, who I think was kind of the obvious guy to take number one. Not only
catch these and more MLB podcasts right here on TuneIn. The NHL is always on the ice with these awesome hockey podcasts on TuneIn. Get your goal with the Spittin' Chicklets podcast.
Brian Yandel, Keith Yandel, thanks for coming on. What's going on?
Nothing much. Glad to be here. You guys got some nice digs here.
We heard you took Southwest 2-stop flight to get out here.
Yeah, well, just
carve up the ice with NHL at the rink.
The other day I wrote a story. Artemi Panarin, Semyon Varlamov, Sergei Bobrovsky, they all helped arrange for the purchase of N95 masks to benefit hospitals in their respective markets. This is another one of those positive stories you're seeing.
Or create your own power play with Locked On NHL.
All these teams invested future assets to take a run at the Stanley Cup right now. Like, all of those teams would have a real serious gripe, like trading these multiple first-round picks to make a run at a cup. You're right.
Discover these and more NHL podcasts right here on TuneIn.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney.
How do you kind of view the volatility in the marketplace here?
What are you looking at to give you some sort of compass through this period?
Companies across the board, across industries, really trying to shore up their balance sheets.
A lot of economists are just throwing up their hands and saying, we don't know.
Breaking market news and insight from Bloomberg experts.
There's only so much that you can speed up vaccine development. Because of all the dislocations, there's always relative value trades that you could be doing. This could be a U-shaped recession rather than a V-shaped recession. It's the uncertainty, I think, that is really spooking everyone.
This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Good Monday morning from New York City and points beyond to our worldwide audience. Coming up, we're going to chat with Don McCree, Vice Chairman, Head of Commercial Banking at Citizens Banks, to get his thoughts on the future of commercial banking in this new world we live in. Plus, the CEO of Moderna on the promising results of their virus vaccine that is under development. But first, let's go to John Tucker of Bloomberg News for a Bloomberg Business Flash. John.
All right, Paul, good morning. All three main U.S. equity indexes, they are higher. It all comes after Moderna said its vaccine tests yielded signs it can create an immune system response in the body. The futures had already been trading in the green this morning as the major U.S. economy and other economies around the world took further steps toward reopening. In addition to that, the Federal Reserve stressed it has more ammunition to combat a downturn. If you look at all the 11 industry groups in the S&P 500, all are in the green right now. Well, don't get too excited. According to James Hathey at Aberdeen Asset Management, he remains pretty cautious on U.S. equities.
They were overpriced before the virus. They're incredibly overpriced now, so you're paying a heck of a lot, for each dollar of earnings, of future earnings.
Right now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 735 points. That's up 3%. We're at 24,414. The S&P 500 right now is up 71 points. That's up 2.5%, 2935. And the Nasdaq Composite Index is up 156 points. That's up 1.75%. We're at 9172. And volatility below 30. The VIX at 2911. And as we look right now, the euro 108, the yen is at 107. That's down down 0.4%. 10-year yield 0.68%. That's up 430 seconds. That's up 4 basis points. And right now we're seeing crude rally. NYMEX crude is up almost 10% at $32.36 a barrel. We're brought to you by New Jersey Institute of Technology and the New Jersey Scholar Corps program, incentivizing residents who attend college out of state to come home and finish their degree in New Jersey. Learn more at njit.edu/NJ-Come-Home. We check the markets for you every 15 minutes during the trading day right here on Bloomberg Radio. I'm John Tucker. That's your Bloomberg Business Flash. Paul and Lisa.
Thank you so much, John Tucker. It is the trifecta. We have Jay Powell on CBS yesterday saying that they have unlimited supply. They have unlimited capacity to continue to print money, basically saying it's just electronic. They can just change numbers on a computer. Then you have the Moderna promising vaccine data that we got out this morning. And then you also have some information out of China that oil demand has resurged back to where it was ahead of the closures pre-pandemic. Dave Wilson, Bloomberg Stocks editor, joining us now. Dave, can you give us a sense of which has been the biggest contributor to the rally that we're seeing today?
Well, really, it's the kind of groups that have been hit the most over the past several weeks. You look at the travel-related shares. Biggest gain, the S&P 500 right now belongs to Royal Caribbean. It's up about 16%. You look at Carnival, you look at Norwegian, and they're following suit. You're seeing it in the airlines to some extent as well. United's up more than 13%. You look at the online travel companies, Booking Holdings, Expedia, TripAdvisor, all up at least 12%. Expedia right now up more than 15.5%. It's kind of going back and forth with Royal Caribbean for the biggest gain in the S&P 500, and it's the more economically sensitive and interest rate sensitive areas of the market, more broadly, that are leading the way. Energy stocks, clearly with the move in crude are at the forefront of the gains. You see raw material producers and industrial companies. And then beyond that, some of the more interest rate sensitive areas of the market, which took a bit of a hit last week. Real concern about, how they're going to fare at this point. We're talking real estate and utilities. So, it does kind of point to some growing confidence here. Now, whether this is a one-day wonder, you always have to, take that possibility into consideration. For the moment, though, things are looking up.
It's interesting. Yeah, things are looking up. I just was looking at a article on the Bloomberg about Home Depot and Lowe's seeing some really big traffic, and those stocks are up. I guess people are, taking the time to kind of do some work on the home.
Absolutely. I was around my neighborhood this past weekend. I saw a few people out gardening. Of course, you can buy your garden supplies at Home Depot and Lowe's, too. So whether they're, fixing up the house or fixing up the yard, that's, something you can do while you have the time. And as long as the stores are open, and they are, they're among the beneficiaries at this point of the fact that so many people are staying at home.
Yeah, when you have your kids at home, homeschooling, then you have a lot of home repairs to do after that. So I'm just looking right now. I do want to ask you about the long end of the yield curve, because as we've seen stocks gain here, we're also seeing bonds sell off. The long end seeing a bit of a rise in yields, and this comes ahead of the 20-year bond sale, $20 billion of 20-year debt on May 20th, Wednesday. Somebody was having a field day. I'm just wondering, Dave Wilson, what people are expecting from that, how important that will be to sort of decide how much the U.S. can sell at this point to plug the deficit.
Well, it's going to be part of a bigger puzzle. This is going to be one area where they haven't sold a lot of debt over time. But, of course, they're going to be going back to the 10 years and the 30 years and the maturities that we all come to know and love as part of the yield curve. So it's part of a bigger tale. It's certainly an indicator, but given, the Treasuries need to borrow trillions of dollars to pay for all the spending that has been approved already, and whatever may come down the pike with this $3 trillion plan that went through the House, who knows what it's going to look like when it's all done. But that may very well expand the Treasury's need to borrow money. So it's going to be a lot to watch, and the 20-year is just one piece of that.
Yeah, how much, Dave, do you think the market's really hanging on and depending on getting another round of fiscal stimulus, whether it's this $3 billion House plan or something coming out of the Senate?
Well, I mean, that's the tricky part. It's like, that people are waiting for more action when, they respond to Jay Powell talking about how the Fed has, quote, a lot more we can do, end quote, when it comes to monetary policy. Presumably they're going to want something on the fiscal side as well, whatever that may look like. And, it's definitely a focus. And at the same time, you have just sort of the bigger question of, are we, in fact, starting to get back to whatever is going to pass for normal when it comes to businesses opening up and that sort of thing? I mean, it's not truly normal in the sense of what we knew even a few months ago, but at least you're talking about steps in the direction where there's more economic activity, where people might actually be able to work, all those things that have been such a concern over the past couple months.
Yeah, nothing back to normal, though. We've got an unemployment rate at this level, which brings us to our levity. Monday morning jokes, and this comes from Tom O'Sullivan on Twitter. The economy is so bad that my neighbor got a pre-declined credit card in the mail. Wait, CEOs are now playing miniature golf. McDonald's is selling the quarter ouncer. A picture is now only worth 200 words.
Okay.
I love it.
All right, he gets some credit for the quality and quantity.
Yeah.
Cute.
All right. What's the rating here?
That's a solid 6.
I might be inclined towards 7, but yeah.
All right, generous. Well, I really, every time I read any of these jokes, I love them. I embrace them. I give them highest marks. I'm Lisa. You can write to me on Twitter at Lisa Abramowitz1, or you can message me, Labramowitz at Bloomberg.net, your dad jokes of the day. A crucial part of our day as we move toward the spring in this very abnormal world. I was just seeing this morning that we might be in for a hyperactive hurricane season. I mean, come on. Enough. We've got locusts. We've got murder hornets. We've got a pandemic. Enough. Dave Wilson, Bloomberg Stocks editor. Make it stop. Right now, let's head to Nathan Hager for World and National Headlines. Nathan.
Lisa, China says it will make its coronavirus vaccine a global public good once it's available. President Xi Jinping made that pledge in a video address to the World Health Organization's governing body.
This will be China's contribution to ensuring vaccine accessibility and affordability in developing countries.
Speaking through an interpreter, Xi also says he backs a WHO-led investigation into the origins of the outbreak after it's over. Drug maker Moderna says it's seeing promising signs from the first human trial of its experimental COVID-19 vaccine. The company says its study was primarily designed to look at the safety of the shot, and a small phase 1 trial showed no major warning signs. Lawmakers from both parties want more information about President Trump's Friday night firing of State Department Inspector General Steve Linick. Republican Senators Ron Johnson tells CNN State of the Union he had problems with Linick.
Quite honestly, with this Inspector General, both Senator Grassley and I have had a real problem with his responsiveness to, in particular, one oversight request. I spoke with senior officials both in the White House and the State Department. I understand their reasoning. I don't know if they're going to provide a more robust rationale for why they do it, but I understand it. I don't disagree with it.
A congressional official tells Bloomberg Linick was looking into whether Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was having a staffer run personal errands for him. The FBI has reportedly found a link between last year's deadly shooting at Naval Air Station Pensacola, Florida, and Al-Qaeda. A source tells Bloomberg agents broke the encryption on iPhones belonging to the shooter, Saudi Air Force Second Lieutenant Mohammed al-Shamrani, and found he had had contact with a suspected al-Qaeda operative. 3 people were killed, 8 others wounded in that attack before police shot and killed al-Shamrani. Global news on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries.
Market upheavals.
The narrative is driven by uncertainty about the virus.
Political reversals.
It's not clear that some of the Republicans up on the Hill are agreed with the Republican White House.
Economic shifts.
The macro clearly being driven by the coronavirus outbreak.
Everything seems to be in motion.
Will it also mean a global recession in your view now?
But here, you're on solid ground.
Looking forward to guiding you through all of this.
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that after 75 years, Smokey's only said,
only you can prevent wildfires.
but I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when it's dry or windy. Be careful burning yard waste, because wildfires can even start in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
If knowledge is power.
A half-price dream holiday, wouldn't want to miss that. A takeaway for free, wouldn't want to miss that. And 30 gigs data for just £10 a month on Smarty Mobile. You definitely don't want to miss that. Our Smarty SIM comes packed with 30 gigs of data and unlimited calls and texts for just £10 a month on a 1-month plan. That's why Smarty won Best Value SIM-only network in the U-Switch Mobile Awards 2020. Don't miss out. Search Smarty Mobile. Smarty. Simple, honest mobile. Smarty.co.uk.
At George, we know there's nothing better than catching up with your mates. That's why we've invited Fern McCann over for a cuppa and a chat with some of her besties. Because staying in is the new going out, right? Join us and Fern over on our Instagram TV at Georgia Asda to get all the latest gossip, giggles and fashion tips. Sunday at 6 p.m.
Picture in your mind a stylish Audi with striking LED headlights, sporty alloy wheels, and some of our most advanced features, including a 10-inch digital cockpit and smart assistance systems like lane departure warning. Picture what that Audi looks like. Now think smaller. The Audi A1. It's not a small car, it's a small Audi. Visit audi.co.uk. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
Where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care. About each other. About our planet. About creating a better world for everyone. And becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
Imagine winning 10 grand. Yes! With Set for Life, you could win 10 grand every month for 30 years.
Get in! Amazing! Woo! Yes! Sweet! Unbelievable!
Set for Life from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Play Monday online or on the app. Prize may be capped. Rules, procedures and game-specific rules apply. Players must be 16 or over.
This is an important update from the government about coronavirus. We all need to stay alert so we can control the virus and reduce the risk of infection. To stay alert, you must remain at home as much as possible. Work from home if you can. Limit your contact with other people. If you have to go out, keep your distance from others. 2 meters apart where possible. Continue to wash your hands regularly. Do not leave home if you or anyone in your household has symptoms. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Get your MLB fix with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Fill your 7th inning stretch with the Ringer MLB Show.
I just can't get over it. It's like, oh, well, Jeter Downs. Didn't realize he was a top. Like, my dad is drinking the Kool-Aid on this. He's like, of course. Mookie was going to leave. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know that.
Slide into second with the Starting 9 podcast.
Nolan Arenado slides right into the top spot for a favorite baseball player.
active in the league right now. It is a pleasure to be sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is we've been waiting a long time for this. We actually, in terms of like active
Round the Bases with the StatCast podcast.
Ways of going about it. I picked third, so in some ways it made it easier for me. Mike, just to go over the first couple of picks, Mike took Barry Bonds, who I think was kind of the obvious guy to take number one. Not only
catch these and more MLB podcasts right here on TuneIn.
Let's be honest, we all spend too much of our day on social media. But at least you can spend your endless scroll time to discover new things on TuneIn. Follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to always be in the know about the best new stuff streaming in the app. From breaking news stories and live sporting events.
He does! Fabry wins it!
To standout stations and podcasts. Stay in touch with TuneIn.
Breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm John Tucker in the Bloomberg Newsroom with this Bloomberg Business Flash with the major indices all firmly in the green this morning. Stocks rallying amid hopeful news around a potential coronavirus vaccine developed by Moderna. Now, the head of Moderna is going to come up on Bloomberg Radio and Television in just a few minutes. You don't want to miss that. It all suggests that shares may recover ground following their biggest weekly percentage drop in nearly 2 months. Right now, we have the Dow Jones Industrial Average of 693 points, a rise of 2.9%. We're at 24,379. The S&P 500 up 72 points. That's up 2.5% at 2936. NASDAQ Composite Index up 171 points. That's a rise of 1.9%. We're at 9186. In the broader index, the S&P 500, all of the industry groups, they are higher right now. And we have the VIX falling right now, 2931 for the volatility index. NYMEX crude, that is spiking up 10%, over 10%, of $3.14 a barrel at 32.57. And we check the markets for you every 15 minutes during the trading day right here on Bloomberg Radio. I'm John Tucker. That is your Bloomberg Business Flash.
This is Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Fed Chair Jay Powell and all of the Federal Reserve governors have talked about the likelihood of a growing rash of bankruptcies among smaller business America. And there's a question of how quickly the federal government is getting aid to these businesses. On the front lines of that is Don McRee, Vice Chairman and Head of Commercial Banking at Citizens Financial Group in Boston and Providence, Rhode Island. A question about how successful the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP, has been so far and what's necessary to shore up this sector of the U.S. economy. Don, thank you so much for being with us. Can I just first ask you to kind of grade the Paycheck Protection Program as Congress members debate how to change it, tweak it to make it more effective? How effective do you think it's been so far?
I actually think, Lisa, that it's been a pretty good program. Our experience has been quite strong with our clients. We had about 45,000 some odd clients apply for the program for around $5 billion. And we have now funded almost 99% of those loans. And they're really going to small companies. I think 92% of them were companies with less than 25 employees. So it's really ending up in the hands of small businesses that need the money. I think one of the challenges is, depending where you are in the country, so we may be a little bit different being in the Northeast, is the makeup of small businesses' expense bases varies widely. Take a restaurant, for example. In some parts of the country, labor is a very significant cost component, but in another part of the country, say New York City, it really is rent. So some of the usability of the monies for employees versus other parts of the cost structure, I know, is a pressure point for some of these small businesses.
So, Don, given that you're seeing some success with your client base, small and mid-sized businesses, with this first round of fiscal stimulus, is it your expectation that, again, dealing with your clients, that they really need a second round of stimulus as well?
I think it depends on the client. I think you've got the Main Street programs, which are beginning to roll out. Some clients will access those. They aren't fully formulated yet, but there's an allowance of people who receive the paycheck program to take Main Street money. I think the Fed is at work thinking about other ways to distribute kind of different forms of aid into the corporate America. So, and then really the wild card is going to be how quickly things begin to open. I was just on the phone with someone in South Carolina, for example, and he said, "Hey, the restaurants here are really busy. So business is back, and that's the first state that's reopened." So I think it's a combination of company and location and reopening rate.
Don, there's been a question as the middle market sector comes under pressure from COVID-19. There's a question about regional banks in general and an expected wave of consolidation that's expected to accelerate on the heels of this pandemic. What are you seeing in that space, and are you interested in participating in an acquirer type mode?
I'd say right now our focus is unilaterally taking care of our customers. So I think for the next 6 months, it's going to be all about helping our clients through this disruption, and it's literally client by client. And then I think the consolidation question will really be, what does the industry look like when we're through this? We're quite optimistic based on what we're seeing right now, and then are there logical combinations? So it's not strategically something that we're focused on at this split second.
So, Don, how has this pandemic and the work from home phenomena impacted your business? I suspect, your bankers like to spend a lot of time on the road, meeting with their clients, but now they're forced to work from home. How has it impacted your business?
So I think it's actually been surprisingly good. We don't think we've lost a beat in terms of interaction with clients. We actually think our efficiency has gone up as people aren't on airplanes and aren't commuting and aren't doing all the things that take them away from actually doing work. We've been able to process everything through our operations units remotely without a hitch. And actually, we're finding the interaction with our clients, largely because we're in the middle of a crisis and they want to talk to us, pretty seamless. So we feel good about it. It's actually surprised us. We thought going into this that we were going to have, some challenges in terms of keeping productivity up and staying in touch with people, but I'd say it's had zero negative impact. And we'll, regardless of where we go, we'll be like this for a while. Not necessarily working remotely, but the going to the restaurants and going to the sporting events and getting on airplanes and pitching will be at a very different level than it was for some period of time.
So, Don, does that mean, just real quick here, 20 seconds, are you going to shrink your footprint in office space?
Haven't decided that yet. We may actually bring some things back on shore, which I think will be good. So I'm not sure we'll actually need to shrink office space, but we'll be doing some onshoring.
Don McCree, thanks so much for joining us. We always appreciate your thoughts and opinions. Don McCree, Vice Chairman and Head of Commercial Banking for Citizens Financial Group based in Boston, as well as Providence, Rhode Island. Interesting, Lisa, having a little to no negative impact, the kind of working from home issue.
Yeah, we're hearing this from a lot of people, and I wonder, as time goes on, will the negative impact on new ideas and things that can kind of get generated when people pass themselves in the hallway, will that be felt, or is this really going to be a referendum on office space?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think a lot of folks feel like being in the office has value, but there's certainly now, I guess, an appreciable cost to that. So that might be changing the calculus a little bit. So I'm sure a lot of companies will be thinking about this going forward. This is Bloomberg.
This is Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks jumping after an experimental vaccine showed promising early signs of helping to fend off coronavirus. Moderna said its vaccine tests yielded signs it can create an immune system response in the body. The Dow soaring more than 700 points. JCPenney said it will close about 29% of its stores as part of its broader business plan. The retailer said it would reduce its store count to about 604. JCPenney filed for Chapter 11 on Friday. Ford, General Motors, and Fiat Chrysler restart production today. The pandemic has forced car makers to close virtually every auto plant in North America, sending production plunging to a level last seen at the end of World War II. And Conagra announced it will provide an additional $7 million in cash bonuses to eligible employees at each of the company's 50 production and distribution facilities across North America. The company has committed more than $13 million in special bonuses for employees. Courtney Donahoe, Bloomberg Radio.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Bloomberg and Eaton Vance are proud to present a Boston Pop salute to our heroes. This Independence Day, the orchestra's 4th of July tradition continues. The program will feature guest artists, highlights from past fireworks displays, new music paying tribute to the heroes of the current health crisis, and honoring the memories of those we have lost. Watch and listen Saturday, July 4th, starting at 8 Eastern, exclusively on Bloomberg Television and right here on Bloomberg Radio. In-depth analysis.
Just this wall and that one to do, Dave, and then we're done. Whoop! Oh, no!
Hello, Steve the Sparky.
Pass us that roof tile, Chris.
Yep, sure.
I'll be fun. Oh, no. Saved by the gutter.
Built to rough it with contractors. Samsung rugged devices. Easy to use, hard to break. Explore the Samsung Rugged range.
At George, we know there's nothing better than catching up with your mates. That's why we've invited Fern McCann over for a cuppa and a chat with some of her besties. Because staying in is the new going out, right? Join us and Fern over on our Instagram TV at Georgia Asda to get all the latest gossip, giggles and fashion tips. Sunday at 6 p.m.
We're all having to get used to the new normal, and at Birkbeck University, we're experts at being adaptable. As London's evening university, we've been flexing around the lives of busy commuters for nearly 200 years. And you can find everything you need to secure your place for autumn online. From expert advice to virtual tours, a live chat with our students and course applications. Make the new normal, studying for the career that you really want. Search Birkbeck, and it's new problem solved.
Imagine winning 10 grand.
Yes!
With Set for Life, you could win 10 grand every month for 30 years.
Get in! Amazing! Woo! Yes! Sweet! Unbelievable!
Set for Life from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Play Monday online or on the app. Prize may be capped. Rules, procedures and game-specific rules apply. Players must be 16 or over.
This is an important update from the government about coronavirus. We all need to stay alert so we can control the virus and reduce the risk of infection. To stay alert, you must remain at home as much as possible. Work from home if you can. Limit your contact with other people. If you have to go out, keep your distance from others. 2 meters apart where possible. Continue to wash your hands regularly. Do not leave home if you or anyone in your household has symptoms. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Right now at the Halifax, wherever we're working from, we're all working together to be there for you.
So our customers can apply for a payment holiday on mortgages, loans or credit cards.
And because we want you to stay home and stay safe.
We've created step-by-step guides to help you set up online and mobile banking.
Which is safer and easier than you may think.
But for those that really need to see us in person, we're keeping as many branches open as possible.
So however you need us at the Halifax,
we're here to help. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, go to halifax.co.uk.
Behind the highlight reels, championship rings, and colossal paychecks, there are sports stories that fuel, deepen, and even challenge our love for the game. For true tales of underdogs, anti-heroes, and game-changing innovators, explore a sports documentary on TuneIn, like Sports Wars, telling the origin stories of classic rivalries, Raise Sports, about the concussion crisis that threatens football's future, and Dunkumentaries, a podcast devoted to the beauty and power of the slam dunk. For these and more, search sports documentaries on TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Markets.
Coming up, as Paul was just mentioning, JCPenney filing for bankruptcy. Now the question is, will they emerge? Does JCPenney need to exist? We will discuss that existential question. Plus, we'll hear from Moderna's chief executive officer on the promising signs of a vaccine. Right now, though, let's head to John Tucker for a Bloomberg Business Flash. John.
All right, thanks, Lisa. In this Bloomberg Business Flash being brought to you by Commonwealth Financial Network, for the sixth straight time, J.D. Power ranks Commonwealth #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms. Visit Commonwealth.com to learn more. Update for stocks. Over 90% of the S&P 500 rising today. That's the most since March 24th. That was the day after the recent market bottom. Now, investors in a buy kind of everything mode right now in hopes that lockdowns might be easing and a virus vaccine might be on the way. As you say, we're going to talk to the CEO of Moderna coming up. That is a must-listen-to segment. Gains right now being led by battered cyclical stocks. You have autos, energy, transport, banks. United Airlines, Royal Caribbean surging right now. More haven stocks like tech and the consumer staples, they're sort of lagging behind. Optimism clearly on the rise. Now switching to oil, rising above $30 a barrel. And for the first time in 2 months, producers in the U.S. and elsewhere continue to cut output. Economist Dennis Gartman, he was asked this morning, where do we go from here?
Negative $37 per barrel for WTI a month ago, the low, absolutely. We will not see that again. Hold on to this one in my lifetime, I hope. But will we see $45 per barrel? I doubt that very substantively. I think $30 to $35 is about as high as WTI can go for the foreseeable future.
So NYMEX crude, that's WTI, up $3.07 a barrel, $32.50 right now. That's up over 10.5% right now. As for stocks, the major indices, well, the Dow's off the best level of the session, still up there, up 680 points. That's up 2.9%. We're at 24,364. The S&P 500, 74 points higher. That's up 2.6% at 2937. The Nasdaq Composite Index up 191 points, a rise of 2.1%. We're at 9206. And we're looking at the 10-year falling in price. The yield is up to 0.68%. We check the markets for you every 15 minutes during the trading day right here on Bloomberg Radio. I'm John Tucker. That is your Bloomberg Business Flash.
You're listening to Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
JCPenney filing for bankruptcy on Friday. Just kind of, this is something that has been expected for a long time. This is a department store chain that's really been on the brink of bankruptcy for some time, as department stores in general really feeling the brunt of the move towards e-commerce. To get a sense of what it means for not only JCPenney, but the department store genre in general, we turn to Bert Flickinger. He's a managing director for Strategic Resource Group. Bert, thanks so much for joining us once again here. So kind of put into context for us, Bert, kind of what this JCPenney bankruptcy filing means for them. Is this a company that can continue? Is this a brand that can continue?
Paul, yes, JCPenney is viable, will continue. It got wrecked by the Wall Street pirates, Bill Ackman, Pershing Square, et cetera. Wall Street didn't understand Main Street, and the difference now, Paul and Lisa, is leadership. Penny's got great leadership with Jill Soltau, great store teams, and as you mentioned a minute ago, Penny is getting rid of the stores and the D&C malls that were impaired by being co-located by liquidated Bon-Ton and Herberger stores and soon to be liquidated Sears stores. Now they'll stay in mostly A malls and B plus malls. So bet on JCPenney to win and bet on Neiman Marcus to lose.
I want to go back to what you said initially, Wall Street versus Main Street, and you view this as a Wall Street not understanding the story here and kind of creating a bad scene for JCPenney. But what would you say to people who argue that the store doesn't have an identity that works with the modern era? They used to be the mail order company. Now, what are they?
Lisa, you're bringing up key considerations, and what Penny is the leading department store for United Nations of consumer constituencies. Number one with Spanish-speaking consumers. Number one with people of color. Number one with Caucasian consumers. And it doesn't cater to prestige, or luxury. It caters to working people who want good quality. Penny's got great cotton, great color palettes. Sephora for beauty, the number one partnership anywhere worldwide. Sephora's flagship store in Paris actually draws more tourists than the Eiffel Tower does every day. And they're bringing back the salons. And in kitchenware and home goods, just like Craig Coleman and Ashley Glazer, they're a great team at Macy's and similar teams at Dillard's. Macy's is taking advantage of the renaissance in food retail, as is JCPenney, and selling a lot more kitchen and home items. So it was a question of bad locations and Ackman and Company wrecking retail, leaving Penny on death's doorstep. And now with a good team and a customer base that loves Penny as an iconic retailer, Penny will be viable. Your point, Lisa, JCPenney.com, long way to go, needs a lot of improvement. They needed to get out of appliances. They are. But Jill's taking corrective action where needed, and Penny's going to go through a real retail requiem while the rest of much of the rest of department and specialty store retail is going through an accelerating retail ice age.
So, Bert, I know they're shutting a bunch of stores here, maybe 30% of their stores. Is that enough, or do they need to shrink their footprint even more, do you think?
Paul, your important point is key. The 30% is enough. It's 30% that they should have done a few years ago. But to the company's credit, they had to wait to see what was going to be impaired and left vacant by the Bon-Ton, the Boscovs, and the other bankruptcies, most notably Sears. So now the surviving Penny stores, on your key point, Paul, will be co-located with Macy's and other leading anchor department store chains. And then we're seeing Chris Baldwin, Lee Delaney, David Pico taking great anchor department stores and converting them to BJ's Wholesale Club. Craig Jelinek and Rich Galante at Costco are taking great department stores, converting them to Costco. That's going to be a real revitalization of customer accounts that will help Penny and Macy's and other mall-based retailers across the country.
We're speaking with Bert Flickinger, Managing Director at Strategic Resource Group. And I want to zoom out from JCPenney more broadly into the retail sector, where we've seen bankruptcies really accelerating. Yes, this is because of the pandemic. However, we also are seeing a consolidation of power, both by Amazon and Walmart, which will report earnings tomorrow. I'm just wondering, is this going to be the era where the big get bigger in retail and all of the weaker players ultimately have to completely rethink themselves or go out of business?
Lisa, big get better, weak get boxed up for the bankruptcy boneyard. The difference is the keystone and the bridge to success is food retail. And for International Council of Shopping Centers, Tom Shea's great team with Stephanie Sigelski and Malachi Kavanaugh, we did a webinar, 1,400 people, all shopping center owners and retail executives, similar to the work we did for Ben Camerata and Carol Meyerowitz at TJX. If you have a high volume, locally owned or chain that's based in food, Penny, Macy's, the other retailers, hard goods, soft goods, general merch, tabletop, as America goes from consuming food 45% at home to now 85 to 95% at home. We think that'll settle at 60 to 65. Anybody who sells food-related
retail items and merchandise as well, advertise as well, especially with language-specific consumer communication, will be winners.
Yeah.
And that's Macy's. Penny will come back the same way. And Lisa, to your point on Walmart will probably report $1.20 a share tomorrow versus $1.02.
Yeah.
Amazon's delivery failures and deficiencies.
Bert Flickinger, we're going to have to leave it there. I'm sorry to cut you off. Bert Flickinger, Managing Director at Strategic Resource Group, talking about the landscape of retail. We're going to shift, though, now, Paul, to the idea of vaccines.
Yeah, exactly. We have the Stefan Bancel from Moderna with some big news this morning about a potential vaccine. So it'll be interesting to hear his comments coming up just right about soon.
Yes, indeed. And right now, let's head to Bloomberg Television, where we've got the interview right now.
TV audiences worldwide to Bloomberg Television and Radio. Joining us now from Boston, Massachusetts is Moderna CEO Stefan Bancel. The company's experimental vaccine showing promising early signs. Stefan, welcome and thank you for joining. So a robust immune reaction is what we're seeing out of your early phase trials. The next phase underway, how big will it be? How many people will be involved?
Yes, thank you for having me. So this is the data from the phase 1, the first 3 cohorts. This was 45 healthy adults run in Seattle. The next study is a phase 2 of around 600 healthy subjects that should start very soon. The FDA in the U.S. has just given us the green light. And we said this morning that we are finalizing the protocol for the phase 3, which is the last clinical study before approval, which we are hoping to start in July of this year. The study will be several thousand healthy subjects across many countries. We are finalizing the protocol as we speak with the FDA, and we are hoping that if we can start in July, as is our plan, after a few months of enrolling all those people in the studies, we should be able in the fall to get a good sense of the efficacy of a vaccine and hopefully filing for commercial approval towards the end of the year.
In terms of data, Stefan, how many doses does it look like the drug will need to be used in? And then in terms of antibody titers, these are the levels that regulators are looking for to establish benchmarks of success. What would you want those to be in the US?
Yes, so indeed, the piece that is exciting about this morning news is at the 2 lower doses we tried. So we tried 3 doses in the phase 1, 25 microgram, 100 microgram, and 250 microgram. And it's typical of a phase 1 where you try different doses to see where you get the best response. And we're very pleased to report that after 2 doses, or a prime and a boost, 3 weeks apart, that all the participants, and it's still a small study, but all participants at the 25 microgram and 100 microgram showed that they were having binding antibodies in their blood coming from vaccination that were at or above the level seen in convalescent sera, so i.e. in the blood of people who had been infected, which is what we're all shooting for in terms of how much antibody do you need. So we're very excited about this data.
Stefan, it's Guy in London. So I've got a couple of questions just to follow up there. The first one is, when people get COVID-19 naturally, do they have immunity once they have had it? Because you're producing more antibodies than a natural response. So I'm wondering, is it a longevity issue? If you are producing greater amounts of antibodies with your therapy, do I get longer immunity than I would if I've actually had COVID-19?
That's what we believe. I want to be careful because, as you know, because you report on the virus daily, we are still learning a lot about this virus. And I think all of us have to be very cautious about statements we make around the understanding of the biology of this virus. But that is indeed what we believe. We believe that if we're able to boost your immune system to a very high level above the concentration in the blood of people that are convalescent from infection, that should be very helpful. And we've shown that before. We have just finished a phase 2 study for another virus called cytomegalovirus, which is a very nasty virus, especially to women in the age of bearing a child. If a woman gets infected during pregnancy, she can lose her child or very bad birth defect on the child. It's the number one cause of birth defect in Europe or in the US, and there is no vaccine approved on the market. And we have shown in that study that we were able to boost seronegative, i.e. people that were never exposed to the virus, to around 10 times higher antibody to people that have been exposed to the virus. But even people that have been exposed to the virus were able to boost their antibodies to provide them stronger immunity. So that's why we are cautiously optimistic.
It's interesting. So older people tend to have less effective immune systems. So I'm curious, you have the initial dose and then you have a booster that comes after it. Is it likely that older people might get a kind of bigger second dose? You start off with the 25 and then maybe you have a 100 booster afterwards, or the other way. I'm not sure exactly which way it's going to work. But could you tailor the first one, the primary, and the secondary one, depending on age, to ensure that less effective immune systems can generate the kind of responses that you're talking about?
So the current design of the study is to use the same dose for prime and the boost, but we are studying different age cohorts. The data we released this morning is for 18 to 55 years of age, so people that are healthy with a kind of quote normal adult immune system. We have also added 3 cohorts in the US of 55 to 70 years old, and 3 additional cohorts from 71 and above. So we'll have to see and learn from the clinic, which is why we do those clinical studies. We could indeed potentially increase the second dose. What has been shown for other viruses and other vaccines, which is the boost is very important, especially for people that have a weaker immune system, like the elderly or the very young, or people that have an immune disease or so on. Because when you basically do the first injection, you prime the immune system, you educate it, and then the antibody mature in your white cells. And then when you hit it again 3-4 weeks after, this is when you actually create memory immunity, which is very important. So we'll have to see with clinical data how to best customize and adapt to different age group, and we will just follow the clinical data to design the best products we can.
What have the analyst and investor community suggested regarding the pricing model should this actually come to market commercially eventually? You must be thinking about pricing.
So as I shared this morning, because indeed I got the question, we have been so busy in the last 4 months to just focus on, one, getting the vaccine to move as fast as possible from a sequence, because remember, the sequence of this virus was first made public by the Chinese government on January 11. That is just 4 months ago. And we are with the green light to go into phase 2 from the FDA and finalizing the design of a phase 3 to start as early as July. So on the clinical front, our team has been so busy on just making this happen. And on the manufacturing front, we just announced 2 weeks ago a very strategic partnership with Lonza from Switzerland to boost our manufacturing capacity. Pre-COVID, we never had the plan in 2020 and 2021 to make so many doses that is required to protect millions, hundreds of millions of people. And so the plant we have in Massachusetts in the US is able to roughly do, assuming a 50 microgram dose or mid dose, to do around 100 million doses per year, which is for most commercial vaccines is very large. But when you have 7 billion people on the planet who are mostly naive to this virus, it's very tiny. And so we set a challenge with the team a few months ago. How do we set up ourselves to be able to provide up to 1 billion doses per year? And so this partnership with Lonza is very enabling because they have the expertise, they have clean rooms available where we can basically buy new equipment, put it in their facilities, and scale up the manufacturing process from being able to do now millions of doses per month to soon dozens of millions of doses per month to soon high dozen, up to close to 80 million doses a month to an equivalent of 1 billion doses per year.
Yes.
So we've already been focusing on that in the last 4 months, and literally working 7 days a week. What we're going to do now is to really start to think about the vaccine in terms of, first, it's the value. What's the value of this vaccine to the healthcare system? As you know, the cost of the healthcare system between ICU stay, mask, all the disruption happening is very high. So we want to do climate data analysis because we're not going to launch in the next month or so.
Yes.
And then we're going to have, of course, discussion with governments because we want, of course, to be responsible given we are facing a pandemic.
Stefan, I want to ask you about the ties and back and forth with the administration and how critical that is. So you have received $500 million from the administration in federal funds to work on this. Also, one of your board members has just become the chief scientist for Operation Warp Speed. How critical is administration support, and will the US be first in line if there is indeed a vaccine at the end of this that works?
So that's a good question. So the role of government and large foundation is critical. What I worry the most about now is not are we going to get the Moderna vaccine to work. I believe with what we've seen today, there's a good probability that the vaccine showing the antibody response we shared today, showing we can protect animals fully and protecting against replication of the virus in the lungs of the animals. I believe that those two data sets, plus all the data we have on 9 other vaccines that have been into the clinic, makes me believe this vaccine should provide protection. But what I worry the most about is so far we have not been able to get any help on manufacturing capacity. If we wait for the product to be approved, let's assume a best case scenario toward the end of this year, which will be remarkable. Usually, it takes 5, 8, 10 years to get vaccine approved. If we don't have enough capacity, people are going to die. Economies are going to stay impacted. And we need governments to be aggressive. In the U.S., we got help, as you say, from the U.S. government. It is to help us fund very large clinical studies, which of course is very helpful. But as of today, we have not received from any government or any large foundation any help towards buying equipment, buying raw materials, so that we can make as many doses as we can now, to have as many doses as we can ready to ship the day, hopefully, we get an approval.
Stefan, I just got a couple of quick. We just folded into one. Does the first country to approve it, does the first region to approve it, get the vaccine first? Following up on Vonnie's question, and messenger RNA vaccines in the past have we ever seen a messenger RNA vaccine approved thus far? Do you think it's going to be harder for a messenger RNA vaccine to be approved? So, A, does the first region to approve it get it first? Is there going to be any order in terms of sequencing of who gets it first? Is there any pressure from any country to deliver it first, i.e. from Washington? And is it harder for a messenger RNA vaccine to get approved in the first place, do you think?
So those are great questions. So on the first question, we are only allowed to provide the products where approved. As you know, medicine is a highly regulated industry. If, let's say, in the UK, the vaccine is not approved, we're not allowed by law to sell the vaccine. And so, let's say, if it's approved in the US and not in the UK, I'm just not allowed to sell it in the UK. But vice versa, obviously. If it's approved in the UK but not approved in the US, I'm allowed to sell it in the UK. I'm not allowed to sell it in the US. So the regulatory framework is something that we all in the industry depend upon, and I have to have approval to be allowed to provide the product. On the mRNA question, indeed, there has to this date no mRNA vaccine been approved. The mRNA technology is very different from DNA technology because we have proven and published with academic labs around the world that when you inject our mRNA into animals, or human cells in a petri dish, the mRNA does not get into the nucleus. So we believe this is a very important long-term safety feature that our mRNA, we believe, has very little to no chance, I want to be careful with absolute in science, to mix with human DNA, which is of course critical from safety standpoint. the way we plan to address this concern that we first have as the sponsor of this product, we do not want to hurt people. We are working hard to try to help people. And so safety is the number one priority for us, given you give vaccine to healthy individuals. We are planning to do very large safety study for the phase 3. We have not again disclosed the number yet, but it's going to be many, many thousands of healthy individuals that we intend to enroll in the US and in Europe, maybe other countries, to get a big safety database before this vaccine can be made available for millions.
Stefan, the very best of luck. We are all looking forward to seeing more results. Your stock is up 22.5% today, so the street also very pleased with the performance. That's Moderna CEO Stefan Bancel. And thank you to our radio listeners for joining us too.
That was Stefan Bancel, CEO of Moderna, talking to Vonnie Quinn and Guy Johnson of Bloomberg Television. Lisa, talking about the potential vaccine that they're working aggressively towards, and that news really pushing the stock up, as Vonnie mentioned, over 20% this morning. But I guess the key takeaway for me is the sense of timing here, getting to a phase 2, I guess by July, and then hopefully, if all goes well, having it available by year end.
It's interesting, as Vonnie mentioned, that the stock has risen 22%. Goldman Sachs raising their target for the shares, with one analyst saying that this initial study seems to have hit the mark.
Yep.
The question that I have, and maybe Max Neeson of Bloomberg Opinion can answer it, is, does a first mover advantage with respect to the vaccine equate to profits, given the political pressure to keep costs down? This is an issue John Farrow raised earlier this morning. I think it's an important one. Max Neeson joining us now. And Max, before we get into the details of the study, will the creators of the first vaccines make a lot of money?
I think it's a complicated question, because Moderna especially is getting a big chunk of money from the U.S. government, and with that comes expectations, that pricing will be moderate, that availability will be broad, and I think that genuinely is going to crimp any profit that's available. On the other hand, if you actually successfully develop a COVID-19 vaccine, you will end up making some degree of money. You'll at least recoup your investment, probably more. And on top of that, if it's Moderna, you can't imagine a better validation of the company's technology if it was able to turn around a vaccine this rapidly. But I don't think they'll be able to price at sort of the profit maximizing level. It'll be somewhere closer to cost and a little bit on top of that, I would imagine.
So, Max, one of the models, I guess what I'm thinking about, and one of the questions I have is just distribution. Whenever a vaccine is approved, are we going to need billions of doses for everyone on the planet? Or what's the thinking there? Because if it is something along those lines, it sounds like you're going to need multiple companies to get into the manufacturing and distribution game. How does that figure out?
Yeah, you absolutely are going to need multiple companies, and in all likelihood, multiple vaccines, just because of the bottlenecks of manufacturing at such a broad level. You don't have to vaccinate everybody on the planet. You need to get at a level that makes community transmission highly novel virus, but that's still equates to billions of doses. So yes, you will need multiple different manufacturers, multiple different companies, multiple different vaccines. Some require cold chain to be refrigerated the whole time. That's tough in sub-Saharan Africa, so you may also need a more shelf-stable vaccine. It's a lot to factor into this. So the more the merrier in terms of manufacturing and number of vaccines.
Max, can you put into perspective the success of the early phase trial? In other words, how much faith we can really place in this, indicating that the vaccine will be effective in preventing sickness?
So I think the really key word here is early, and I'm going to repeat it again, early, because
we got it.
Really,
one more time.
really small study that was designed mostly to focus on safety. Now the fact that there's immunogenicity and that this appears to be an antibody response.
interesting is that the office space outside of urban cities are in really high demand. It's really, really hard to find. So these commercial real estate tenants are rethinking going into an elevator on the 30th floor, right? And so now those suburban markets with maybe 3 stories have seen a lot of activity. And so that new norm for office is really that tricky question of how it's going to be balanced going forward.
Lisa, there's a lot there. Let's unpack a little bit of it. I want to get into the shift away from densely populated urban areas, because this is something a lot of people are wondering about, especially given the high valuations of commercial real estate in the big urban centers. Is that all dead in the water now?
So people are still going to be in the urban cities and want to work. Those high-tech jobs, the professional services firms, they're still going to be in the larger cities. Those gateway cities are still going to call a demand for that. And so I think it's just a rethinking and a repositioning of how you're using the space, rather than people just flooding and evacuating, so to speak, those densification markets. It's just figuring out how to get that tension to be where people are going to feel comfortable going back into that space.
It's interesting, Lisa. I wonder how the workspace itself is going to evolve. When I started on Wall Street, 30 years ago, everybody had the cubes, or if you were an officer, you had an office. And if you were a senior, a managing director, you had a really big office. But now, it's much more of an open floor plan. That's certainly how Bloomberg has been configured globally. How do you think the floor plans are going to evolve? Is the open floor plan where everybody's just kind of sitting with little to no barriers, is that a thing of the past here until maybe we get a vaccine or something different?
I think it has to be, right? I think that people are going to have to feel comfortable and safe in their work environment. So whether they're going in on shifts, if there is some hoteling where it's an A or a B day, but people are going to have to feel that they're secure and it's clean. And so that model of either putting up barriers or some sort of protection, we even had some conversations with people about antiseptic finishes, non-touch access to things within the office, things where people are really going to have to feel that their space is their own space, and they're going to feel comfortable and safe going back into the workforce. And even in the urban cities, I'm sure you've been speaking a little bit about, people on the subways and getting back into the city. But once they're there, getting in that, they need that they are safe and secure.
Lisa Nee, co-leader for the National Real Estate Practice at Eisner Amper in New York. Thank you so much for being with us. And I will just say, talking about getting around the city, Paul, everyone's biking. And really biking. And actually, this weekend, I purchased a new bike for one of my sons. And they were almost out of bikes, and the line was around the block. I mean, really, this is sort of the mode of transportation now for people who don't want to go back to the subway system.
It really is. I was just reading an interesting article on that on the Bloomberg terminal today. I think sales are up 30% in April, and they're tracking even higher in the month of May. And they're getting to the point where you mentioned, Lisa, there's a shortage in a lot of areas here. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this all evolves as, we're seeing in New York City shutting down streets to allow more efficient foot traffic. You're just wondering how much of this is going to be permanent or just kind of transitory.
Yeah, and we'll hear more about the reopening plans coming up. Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York State, talking about the latest there with the daily coronavirus briefings that have become a key part of this entire era. I'm Lisa Abramowitz, along with my co-host and colleague, Paul Sweeney. This is Bloomberg Markets.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks are jumping with the Dow up more than 800 points as more economies take steps toward reopening.